Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and since the Aftermath DLC was released, DICE has made some small changes to a bunch of the weapons, and over the past couple of days, I have been testing those changes, and so I wanted in today's video to talk about some of those tweaks. I'm not going to go over every single change because there were some that were so insignificant that I don't even think that they're worth mentioning, but I will talk about the popular weapons or the ones that I think you guys will be interested in and go into detail. So the first weapon that I'm sure a lot of you are interested in is the nerf to the M416. DICE said that the reasoning behind this was to put it more in line with the M16A3 and to make that choice a little bit more interesting. I find this amusing because the changes they've made essentially makes it not identical to the M16A3, but very close. I mean, very, very close. What they did is they reduced the recoil on the horizontal recoil on the left, but increased the horizontal recoil on the right. And so now, as I said, it really resembles the M16A3's recoil. And to be honest, I didn't really notice that large of a difference when I was playing with it. You can still take people out at long range. They did increase its initial recoil, so that first shot is going to kick a little bit more. But really, it's the M416 that you know and love, and if you were able to dominate with it before, you're going to have no problem with it now. Another weapon that I'm sure a lot of you are interested in is the recent buff to the FAMAS, and I played around with it, but I didn't really notice that large of a difference. They reduced its horizontal recoil slightly, but it feels like the recoil is so insignificant that I didn't really notice that much of a change. I mean, if you like the FAMAS, I don't really know why you would, but you do like that high RPM and you're able to manage the weapon's lower magazine size, then you're still going to do well with it, and you can still take people out at medium to close range with not really much of a problem. But if you do go for long range targets, you're still going to suffer the problem where it's just very challenging to stay on target because of the large horizontal recoil, and it's just kind of hard to predict where the weapon's gonna kick. So the FAMAS, while I'm glad that they buffed it a little bit, I didn't really think that it was a large enough change to make it a viable weapon when you compare it to a lot of the other options out there. The Type 88 also got some loving, which I'm glad to see that DICE finally did so, because in my opinion, this was one of the worst LMGs in the game. I mean, I don't even like LMGs, but when I do play the support class, I never use this weapon. I probably had like one, maybe two videos with it after like the year and a half that Battlefield 3 has been out. I mean, it really was that bad. It didn't have anything, it didn't have a high damage model like the PKP, its recoil was fairly unmanageable, and while it did have a large magazine size, if you did use that attachment, it just didn't provide anything substantial enough to give me incentive to use it. But now what DICE has done is that they've reduced the vertical recoil quite substantially, and it's a lot easier to stay on target, and even if you are burst firing or just kind of holding down the trigger, I was taking people out at medium to long range with not really much of a problem. And it was funny because I went on some pretty crazy kill streaks with the gun, and people were accusing me of hacking, and I probably would have accused myself of hacking because I was using the Type 88, and before this patch it really was that bad. I mean, you just never saw anyone use it. But now I have a feeling that because of this fairly substantial reduction in its vertical recoil, you're going to see this used a lot more often, and it's going to be a much more viable option. The M5K also saw a fair amount of changes, and before the patch, this was kind of your dominant weapon. It did well in almost every situation. Its recoil was manageable enough so that you could take people out at long range. It had an amazing hipfire accuracy, a high RPM, and so it just was a fantastic weapon. And I think, well, I know that DICE didn't want it to be that dominant in every engagement, so what they have done here is that they've reduced its vertical recoil, but significantly increased its horizontal recoil. And so now, if you are someone who only used it for up close, you like the hipfire accuracy, and you played that close game, then nothing's going to change for you. It's still going to perform just fine in those scenarios. You're still going to take people out very quickly. But if you were someone who liked to use it for long-range combat, I'm not sure really why you... Well, I guess I could see why you would use it before like that. But if you did want to go for those long-range targets, now it's going to be a lot more difficult, simply because the horizontal recoil is just going to make it a lot harder to stay consistent with each of your shots. So I think this is a good change. It's going to put the weapon more in line with the other personal defense weapons out there. as I said before, it was kind of overpowered. It just did too much too well. So the final weapon we're going to be taking a look at today is the AUG, and the AUG is kind of like the Type 88 for me, where it didn't really fit a role or didn't really do anything superbly well that made me want to use it. I mean, it's nice that it is a bullpup, so you're going to stay mobile when you're aiming down sight, and it does have a pretty nice hipfire accuracy for an assault rifle, but with its lower RPM, I never really like to use it for those kind of close encounter engagements, and so I just kind of avoided this weapon. So what they've done is that they've reduced its initial recoil, and while it's not going to be as good as something like the AK or the Scar L, I'd say that this is a pretty solid pick for a medium range map, or when you know that you're going to be in some tight situations up close, some up close combat. With its, even though it does have a slower rounds per minute, the hipfire accuracy is going to be nice, and with the recent change to the reduction in its initial recoil, it's a decent weapon. And if you haven't tried it out already, or if you never really liked it before, I think that this change makes it a lot better, and you should give it a shot. But I would love to know what you guys think about these changes. Do you like the direction they're heading? Are you annoyed that they nerfed your favorite M5K? Let me know in the comment section below. But if you guys enjoyed today's video, or just want to support my channel, giving this video a rating always brings a smile on my face. Maybe share it with your friends, and if you haven't already, subscribe for more. But until next time, guys, have a good one and take it easy.